Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, who dat nation, we are here. We are here, ladies and gentlemen. Can I get a who dat? Welcome to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your humbled host, Kevin Reed, and football is officially back. We have been going through a month of preseason and training camps and so forth. Now it's time for the nitty gritty. It's time for the real deal. Holyfield, this Sunday, our New Orleans Saints will open up the brand new season as they take on the Carolina Panthers, 12 noon. I am so happy that we have arrived to this part of the season, to this part of the year. It seemed like this was the longest, at least it felt like, the longest off season in the history of the NFL. I couldn't wait for football, and it's here. And now that it's here, it's probably going to be, by late September, mid-October, I'm going to be wishing it's over, depending on how this team plays out this season. I'm hoping and praying for a bounce-back year. This episode, along with previewing that game, the opening game, week 1 against the Carolina Panthers, we're first going to go over the NFC South, our division, because I feel that this year we need to focus on winning the division, which should be the focus every year, and I believe it's the focus every year. But it feels like something got lost in the sauce here, the past couple of years. I don't know what happened to this team. They just lost focus. And the coaching was bad. The play was bad. The vibe, man, it was just bad. Everything has been horrible coming off an airline when it concerns the New Orleans Saints. Ever since Drew Brees rolled off into the sunset, it's been a downward spiral ever since. Sean Payton left the year after that. We couldn't get a quarterback, after that. We did get a quarterback, and we still don't have a quarterback. It's like, oh, my God. Dennis Allen has not been living up to what a lot of people, a lot of people's expectations, not mine. He's living up to what I thought he was, and he is what I felt he was. Not a good coach. But let's see if he can turn it around. We have a new offensive coordinator this season with Clint Kubiak. We have some new additions on our defensive front that looks like it's going to pay some dividends with the addition of Chase Young on that defensive line. That can do nothing but help this squad. If we have any ounce of pass rush, this will help this defense immensely. But we're going to get to all that when we break down the game this upcoming Sunday. But before we get to the breakdown of the game, like I said, let's start with the South. How to win the South. What stands in our way in the South? Of course, in our division, we have the Atlanta Falcons, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and also the team that we're going to play this Sunday, the Carolina Panthers. And so this is a huge game out the gate, I should say, first week of the season. Now, when I talk to fellow Who-Dats in the Who-Dat Nation, and they're like, oh, it's Carolina. These are the comments that I get. And when I hear those comments, I get a tingle down my spine. My stomach starts to bubble, because don't overlook these people. Don't overlook nobody, especially the Saints. We can't overlook nothing. You remember we overlooked the Green Bay Packers last season when we jumped on them 17-0, and the next thing you know, we lost the game. We can't take things for granted, and this is a division game, and granted, Carolina has done nothing this offseason. They did nothing to improve their team, which we're going to go over in a couple of minutes. And so all indications show that, yeah, the Saints should beat them. On paper, it shouldn't even be a game. It should be over at halftime. You should switch to find something else to watch by halftime in that game on paper. Unfortunately, we got to take the field, and we gotta play this game out till it hits 4 zeros. But yeah, that's a big game because that essentially counts for 1.5 wins if we win that game. Already off the bat, first game, boom, we need it. We need it, and that's a good start, jumping off point. But the rest of the division and everybody, all the pundits, I don't care if you listen to podcasts or to ESPN or Fox, FS1 and all these other sports channels, all of them are picking Atlanta. And I understand why. I mean, Atlanta has made some big moves this offseason. They've seemed to have turned the corner on a lot of things. They got a new coach with Raheem Morris, who's a proven coach. He's a good coach. He was the head coach at Tampa for a little while, so he's returning to the South. Defensive-minded coach, something that they need over there in Atlanta. So that's a good thing. Offensively, they added Kirk Cousins to the mix, and that's a plus. Then they came back during the draft and drafted their quarterback for the future after Kirk Cousins leave with Michael Penix Jr., who coincidentally before the draft said he wanted to be a New Orleans Saint. I don't know how much weight you put to that, because we didn't have a chance to get him unless we moved up, but that was the statement he made, and Atlanta heard it and immediately drafted him. But that's neither here nor there. But they made some really good moves in the offseason to improve their team. That all they needed was 1 or 2 pieces. Atlanta had what it needs to win. They just couldn't put it together. The scary part is now they can put it together. And the Saints had an opportunity. The Saints had a window these last 2 years to take control of the division, and we squandered it. So now we're going to have to fight for it. Let's go over last season stats, last season's rankings, to put it more accurately. In the division, starting off with offense, the Saints offense ranked 14th in the league last season, which is crazy. I didn't think we were that high. I did not know we were that high offensively, but 14th in the league. Coming in second in our division would be the Atlanta Falcons. They came in at 17th in the league offensively. Coming in at third was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had the 23rd ranked offense in the entire NFL last season. That is horrible. And that is something to laugh at if it wasn't for the Carolina Panthers, who last year ranked dead last in the entire league. They were 32nd in offense and added not one piece to that offense. It is the biggest head scratcher in all of sports. I don't understand what happened. I don't know. It's not a money thing because they're not paying nobody. I don't know why they haven't brought. That would have been a perfect spot for a Michael Thomas. You know, Michael Thomas come over there. He's a veteran. I think he still has something left in the tank. Me personally, I wish he was still here, but that's a discussion for another day. But that would have been a good spot for him. They have other receivers out there in free agency that they can add. They have no running game. Get a running back. They add something to this team. They are not looking out for Bryce Young, and it's sad. It is really embarrassing to look at. But yeah, those are the rankings. Saints were 14th, Atlanta was 17th, Tampa was 23rd, and Carolina was dead last in the league. Offensively. Defensively, on the other hand, coming in at number 4. Now we jumped all on Carolina for having the worst offense in the league, but they had a top 5 defense. They were 4th ranked in the league last season defensively. And that's the truth. They actually had a good defense. Well, excellent. They had an excellent defense. That didn't change. I mean, they did lose some pieces. I think they lost or did they lose him last year? Burns. Brian Burns. I could be wrong, but I know they lost him. Just can't remember if it was this offseason or last offseason. But they lost a couple of pieces. We'll see how that turns out if it's going to roll over to this season. But they were ferocious last season. The second best defense in our division was the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons actually had a defense better than ours last season. They were 11th in the league. Saints came in third with 13th ranked defense in the league, and Tampa was, you guessed it, 23rd. They were 23rd across the board for offense and defense. Not this season, but last season. But that's how it all felt. I like the Saints number because it's kind of middle of the pack, and you want your team in that number, just like Atlanta. Atlanta has good numbers. They're in the middle there. You go in the off season, you make changes. You make subtle little changes. You don't have to blow up the team. You make subtle little changes to improve your squad, and that's what they did. They're a scary team. Saints did make some changes. Maybe not the ones that we necessarily wanted or were expecting, but they did make some changes, especially defensively. Offensively, once again, that offensive line got a lot of question marks. The wide receiving core has a lot of question marks. So Saints still are kind of on the bubble in those areas, but everywhere else, I'm not even touching quarterback. We'll jump on that in just 1 second, but they look like they can improve, especially with this new offensive system that we have. And so we shall see. Let's go to the quarterbacks. For a couple of years, for last season, I'm not going to go a couple of years. Last season, we quote unquote had the best two quarterbacks in our division. We had the two best quarterbacks in our division. We had Derek Carr and Jameis Winston. Both were New Orleans Saints. Yet and still, this offense struggled. Now, the argument is made. Derek Carr was hurt last season. Well, why did he play? If you was hurt, if you was that hurt, you shouldn't have played. You hurt the team. You were hurt, and in turn, you hurt the team. And this is what we got. You know, you should have just started Jameis Winston. I understand Jameis Winston is feast or famine. I get it. But it was feast or famine with Derek Carr. Let him sit a couple of weeks. The man he already had bruised up ribs, probably broken ribs. He had about 2 concussions and you sending him out there every week. That made no sense to me. 0 cents. But last season, Derek Carr had 3,878 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions last season. Look, they're middle of the pack numbers, not horrible numbers. And it really picked up later in the season when he started feeling healthy. I think they love throwing up that stat like for the last 6 games of the season, Derek Carr was the #1 rated quarterback. I don't want to hear that. That does nothing for me. You put that with a quarter and you still don't have bus fare. That doesn't work for me. What you being good the last 6 games do for me that it didn't do the first 11. You still didn't make the playoffs. You didn't win the division. None of that helped. And so those are decent numbers. And also to kind of help out Derek Carr in this little berating, he don't have an offensive line. He does not have an offensive line, which why he was hurt a lot because they weren't blocking. So hopefully he gets that help. Kirk Cousins, this is his first foray into the NFC South, coming over from Minnesota, now here in the Atlanta Falcons uniform. He was hurt last season. He played half the year. He got injured. I think he tore his Achilles, if I'm not mistaken, or something. I don't know. But he only had 2,331 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Granted, he had probably the best wide receiver in football, if not the best, definitely one of the best in Justin Jefferson. And so he has some assistance. Now, he has even more weapons in Atlanta. You got Drake London, you have Kyle Pitts, you have B.J. Robinson at running back. You know, he has some weapons. So he's going to be a kid in the candy store in Atlanta. So, but the good thing for us, for the Saints, he's a statue. He doesn't move, and so he's an easy target for Chase Young, for a Cam Jordan or Brian Brzee. Yeah, so hopefully we can disrupt this pass attack that they are putting together in Atlanta. Bryce Young, poor fella, like I said before, they didn't help Bryce Young. Still haven't helped Bryce Young. Last season, Bryce Young in his rookie year threw for 2,877 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. I'm actually shocked he had that much because he had nothing. He was working with nothing. No receivers, no running back, no line, no nothing. All they had was a defense. That's it. Man, I felt bad for that dude and still do. And that's a division rival. And I feel bad for him. That's how bad it is. Swinging over to Tampa, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield last season in Tampa, his first season in Tampa, where they won this division for a third consecutive time. First time in the South that a team accomplished that. He had his best season statistically in his career. He threw for 4,044 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions last season. He had a banana season. I gotta tip my hat to Baker, and I'm a Baker guy. You know, before he got to Tampa. Now I don't like him, but he's a. But I always was a Baker guy. I liked his swag. It was just something about him. I like Baker. And I wish him all the success. Just not against us and not in this division. But it is what it is. But yeah, you look at that crop of quarterbacks. These are the 4 quarterbacks in this division. And you got to ask yourself, which one's the best? Where would you rank it? I mean, statistically, I guess you got to go, just going by last year, statistically, you got to go Baker Mayfield, then Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, and Bryce Young. But if you look at their body of work, you probably have to go Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, then Bryce Young. Bryce Young doesn't change. We only got 1 year of work to look at with him. But yeah, that's how it would go. And sadly, Derek Carr will come in third. Now, with that being said, that's not a bad thing. It's not a horrible thing because I don't need Derek Carr to go out there and throw for 4,000 yards. I don't need Derek Carr to throw 50 touchdowns. I don't need him to do all that. I just need him to orchestrate this offense. I need him to not lose the game. Just don't lose the game. And in the event that I need that one drive at the end of the game, put that one together. You know, that little 2-minute drill. Give me that. That's all I need. I don't need him to go out here and light it up. I'm not looking for Drew Brees Jr. I'm not looking for that. I just need you to be Derek Carr. Because a lot of the problem, and I got caught up in it, a lot of us got caught up in it. We got sold a bill of goods unfairly about Derek Carr, and I think it was unfair to him. He was supposed to come in and be the savior. You know, he was going to come in and pick up where Drew left off and all this here. And a lot of people thought that's what we were going to get. I never thought that, but I just thought he would be better than Andy Dalton. I thought he would have been better than Trevor Siemian. So far, I'm not impressed. So far, he's no better than those guys. He was no better than Jameis Winston. The numbers were the same. He had the same numbers. So I'm looking for a quarterback to be better than those guys. And those were journeymen, you know, backups, career backups players. I need you to be better than that. And that's my only beef with Derek Carr. I don't think it was him per se. It was what we were sold by the Saints organization and Dennis Allen. But it is what it is. He's here now. No point crying over it. Let's just go forward. Let's just push forward and see where this leads us. Uh, Two more topics left in this show. The preview for this Sunday's matchup against the Carolina Panthers. And then to wrap up the show, we're going to go over the schedule for this upcoming 2024-25 NFL season for the New Orleans Saints. And I will give my final predictions of our outcome this season. Being as though this is the first game of the season, there's really no statistics, no stats, nothing that I can throw up there to compare the two teams as to who will win, who has the advantage, who doesn't. You just have two eyes to see as far as previewing this game. But the New Orleans Saints will host the Carolina Panthers in this year's Week 1 opener, September the 8th, 12 noon on Fox. The Saints will open the season in the Caesars Superdome for the second consecutive year. Last year we won. As a matter of fact, the Saints, I think they won their last 5 season openers. I could be wrong. I think it was either 4 or 5 years in a row. What that signifies is nothing, but it is a tradition to win it, I guess. So we'll see. But the contest will also be the first time the Saints will open up against a division opponent, and they did it in 2020. And you remember that was the year that Tom Brady went to Tampa, and that was the big showdown. Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. We beat him. That was a Sunday night game, I believe, 34-23. I know it was a big game because two legends or whatever. Unfortunately, we couldn't do nothing else, but we could beat Tampa, except when it counted. But let's not open that open up that can of worms. Yeah, this is going to be interesting game because this is a game you set the tone for the rest of the season. You're playing, let's put it plainly here, an inferior opponent. Carolina shouldn't have a snowball's chance in you know where against the New Orleans Saints on their worst day. But these are the type of games that worries me because you tend to look past them. You know, you tend to look past teams like this, especially when you got a playoff contending team right after this with the Dallas Cowboys, which is somewhat of a hated rivalry as well. And so you tend to look past games like this, and that's how you get caught up. That's where the infamous trap games come into play. But I honestly believe that the Saints are the kids with the shiny new toy, and they want to show everybody what they got. I think we're going to get a display of all of the little nuances of this new and improved offense that was placed in this organization over the offseason. So this would be the perfect game for it. You know, this is it. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but it's the truth. This is an extension of the preseason because, I mean, come on, man. Carolina is, that's one of the worst teams in football, all of football. This is the game. You set the tone. You let the world know. Get these people off of my field. Why are you putting them on my schedule? You know, this is the game you do that with. Do not struggle. Do not struggle. And I know they get paid too. I get all that. But let's be real, people. Let's stop. Let's stop with the PC and all this here. And let's be real. Let's be real. So it's a no-brainer. I predict the New Orleans Saints to come out victorious in Week 1 against the Carolina Panthers, giving us a good start to the season. And so let's get into our schedule for this upcoming season. 18 weeks, 17 games. The Saints have, I believe, 3 primetime games, or is it 4? 3 or 4 primetime games. Well, when we go down the list, I'll make sure to let you know which ones are which. But this is my early preseason prediction. Granted, I'm just going off a whim. I don't know anything about the other teams, not much. I ain't gonna say anything. I do know a little bit about a little bit, but things are subject to change throughout the course of the season. Unfortunately, you have injuries. Unfortunately, teams get better that you thought was gonna be poo, and vice versa. So things happen that would throw off a plan throughout the course of the season. But as it stands right now, if everything stays the same, if the world was perfect and nobody got hurt and everything that's on paper holds up for 18 weeks, this will be my prediction. Beginning in week 1, I already gave that prediction. Saints will come out victorious on September the 8th against the Carolina Panthers in the Dome. And so we've moved to week 2 on September the 15th. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the New Orleans Saints will travel to Jerry's World to take on those beloved Dallas Cowgirls. And this game was a tough one to call, to be honest with you. Of course, I want to beat the it's sad. I want to beat the Cowboys more than I want to beat the Falcons. I can't stand the Cowboys. And it's not really the Cowboys. It's the Cowboys fans. And I say that with love, tongue in cheek, because I have a lot of Cowboys fans in my family and friends of mine who are Cowboys fans. And we go at it all year. It isn't just football. It isn't just for those 6 or 7 months. It's truly all year with us. And we almost went to this game. We were looking at ticket prices in the standing, in the standing section in Jerry's World for the game was like $300 or whatever. I'm good. I'm gonna watch it at home. I'll watch it at home. But on the field, statistically, matchup wise, I see Dallas having a slight edge over the Saints in this game as it stands right now. I don't know. I just don't see the Saints coming out victorious in this game. Now there is a path to victory here. And this is without me seeing a snap yet. But there is a path, I feel, that the Saints can win this game if they're able to run the ball and how committed they are to running the ball in this new offense. Let's see, a lot of questions will be answered after week 1, as far as how the Saints are going to run this offense. And so we really only got a few days before I can definitively say what this team is going to do this season. But like I said, I'm committed to getting this out before the season starts. And so I can only go by what they have shown me in the past. And going by what they have shown me in the past, the Saints will fall to the Dallas Cowboys week 2 in Dallas. Week 3. And look, I failed to mention going into this, Saints statistically have the easiest schedule. Once again, the easiest schedule in football. Statistically, just like they had it last year, they have it again this year. I don't see where this is the easiest. Now, it starts off rough. All our hard games are in the beginning, and then it drops off dramatically middle of the season. But the first 6-7 weeks of the season, ooh, Lord, this is brutal. This is going to be a brutal run these first 2 months of the football season. And so week 3, September the 22nd, back in the Superdome, the Saints will finally host the Philadelphia Eagles in this week 3 matchup. I'm so happy because you realize for like the last 4 or 5 games, we played Philadelphia in Philadelphia, and they've beaten us. I think we only won once in Philadelphia. We've yet to play them in the Dome. So we finally get them in the Dome this year, and I think we're going to get them. I think this is the year we get them again. They kind of in disarray over there in Philly. It isn't the city of brotherly love. You have Jalen Hurts and his head coach not being on the same page, and that's weird. If your coach and quarterback not on the same page, that's a problem. Can they clear it up by week 3? Sure, they could. It could be cleared up now as I'm recording this. I don't know, but it is an issue. And they have lost a lot of pieces on that team since they went to the Super Bowl a couple of years. And I'm talking a couple of years ago. This isn't like 5-6 years ago when they went. No, I'm talking 2 years ago. And since then, they've lost players, they've lost coaches and coordinators, and they're not the same team. And it's been a struggle. And I think the Saints have just enough to outdo Jalen Hurts this time around. I feel confident because we have somebody on that offensive line, or defensive line, I should say, that can actually run down Jalen Hurts if need be. And that's not fair because, no, you can't run down Jalen Hurts, but you can disrupt them, with Chase Young. And so I feel better with that because before, Jalen Hurts was just having a field day on the Saints defense. My God, it was probably the easiest games he had as a pro when he played the Saints defense. But I think the Saints will come out victorious in week 3 at home versus the Eagles. Week 4, September the 29th, the Saints will travel to Atlanta to play those Dirty Birds. Let me just give you a spoiler alert right off the bat. Division games, play teams twice a year in our division. We're going to split with Atlanta. My biggest question is where at? Will it be this game or will it be the next game that we play them? But it will be a split with Atlanta. I'm going to say just to put it out there, this game is in Atlanta. I'm going to say Atlanta wins this game. So the week 4 matchup against Atlanta, we will lose that game. And the reason being, when we play Atlanta in Atlanta, that's their Super Bowl every year. And they come to play like it ain't nobody's business. That's their Super Bowl, beating us. That's all they care about because they can't win Super Bowl. So that's their Super Bowl. And so, they're going to come play. It's going to be a tough matchup, though. I think that's going to be probably our most physical game at that point of the season, I would say. But the Saints will fall against Atlanta. And the NFL did the Saints no favors. Well, they did in a way. They gave us a little extra day here because the Saints will have a Monday Night Football game. Unfortunately, it will be against the defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs, in Kansas City, in Arrowhead Stadium on October the 7th. You already know, man. What my prediction is. The Saints, nah. Taylor Swift gonna be there and all that. Nah, we're not winning that game, unfortunately. Moving on to the next week, October the 13th, Sunday noon, back in the Dome, the Saints will take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Saints will beat the Buccaneers in this matchup. I don't think the Saints gonna sweep them. Well, I'm sorry. I don't think they're gonna split with them. I think the Saints gonna sweep them. I have a strange feeling about that. I don't know. I have nothing else to add. I just feel that the Saints going to sweep Tampa this year. And that's not a hope or wish. I just got a strange feeling they're going to do it. Well, that leads us to the Thursday night showcase, where this is probably the biggest game of the year for sentimental reasons for a lot of Saints fans. Me personally, I could care less. When they first announced it, I was kind of in my feelings with it. But then I thought about it, and I don't care. I just don't care. But I know we're going to hear it all week that week. We're going to hear it all during the game when Sean Payton returns to the Dome with his new squad, the Denver Broncos, on Prime Video, the Thursday night game for all the world to see. My God, the headlines write themselves in this game. But I will say this. I don't know who's going to win this game with my whole heart. I can't tell you who. But I can tell you this, it would be in Dennis Allen's best interest to win this game. There's no ifs, there's no ands, there's no buts or maybes. He better win this game. He can go 1-17 this season or 1-16 this season. That one better be against Denver. He has to beat Sean Payton. If he does not beat Sean Payton, just imagine the uproar about that. But on the real though, I really think the Saints can beat him. I'm not sold on anything Denver is doing or has been doing since Sean Payton has gotten there. And Pete Carmichael is over there now too. So yay. They all return to the dome. I would imagine, and look, as much as I have my problems with Sean Payton and the way he left, now he tried to do it in a dignified matter, retiring, stepping away. But if you really know what really went on, him trying to leave the team and go to Miami, him and Tom Brady and all this here, the year before he actually left, it's kind of messed up. It's a little messed up, and I lost a lot of respect for him with that. I still love him. He got us our Super Bowl. You can't take that away. He'll always have that place in my heart, but I just didn't like the way he exited the team. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they're gonna have a big video package and all that during the game. He's gonna get a standing ovation and all that for winning us that Super Bowl, and he does deserve that. But after that, once the coin is flipped, curse him out, throw stuff at him, and you give him the love and joy that we give here in New Orleans. Anyway, the Saints will come out victorious against the Denver Broncos. And needless to say, that's a short week. That is a very short week, the quick turnaround. So it's going to be tough nonetheless. Moving on to October the 27th. Yes, we get a little mini bye there because of the Thursday night game. And the Saints will take on the Los Angeles Chargers in LA. This should be a good one here. Jim Harbaugh back in the NFL, coaching the Chargers. I really don't know much about the Chargers right now. Yes, they have Justin Herbert. Let's see what Jim Harbaugh can do with Justin Herbert. Or is it John? Which one is it, John or Jim? I don't know. One of the Harbaugh boys. I'm getting confused. But anyway, I think it's Jim. I think the Saints will come out victorious against the Chargers in that game. November the 3rd, for the Week 9 matchup, the Saints will take on Carolina for the second time. Last time this season, I think the Saints will sweep Carolina. Week 10, November the 10th, Saints welcome the Atlanta Falcons into the Dome. This is where the Saints will get their victory against Atlanta in the Dome. The following week in the Dome, the Saints will take on the Cleveland Browns. And I think the Saints will come out victorious. I think the Saints will win that game. That's going to be a tough one, a very, very tough one. But the next week, the Saints have a bye. And so that's the week against Cleveland. You put it all out on the line. You got to go into the bye week with a victory, with some momentum. You can't go in the bye week losing this game. The way I have it set up right now, if it was to go the way I had it, the Saints would be on a 6-game winning streak going into the bye, and that's perfect. That is excellent up to that point. You know what I'm saying? So even you can move one or two of them. And there's some question marks on 2 of these games. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I defaulted to my team. But there are a couple of question marks. But even with that, it's still a good win percentage going into the bye. And so you definitely want to win this game against Cleveland. As I said, Week 12 is the bye. Week 13, the Saints will return to the Dome December the 1st against another Los Angeles team, the Rams. And this one's going to be a little tougher This was going to be a little tougher. I think the Rams are going to be a little better than what they were last year, and last year they were good. Last year they was excellent. So I think the Saints will come out of the bye with a loss against the Rams. Week 13, no, week 14, on December the 8th, the Saints will travel to New York City and take on the Giants. The Saints will win that game against the Giants. Following week 15, back in the Dome, the Saints will take on the Washington Commanders. I think the Commanders going to be a sneaky good team next year. And I say sneaky, but it might not be that sneaky. They might just be good. And I think they're going to be good enough to beat the Saints in week 15. Week 16, Monday Night Football. The Saints will travel to the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. I got my answer written down, but I got to go with what I got written down. The Saints will lose against Green Bay in Monday night. I keep reverting back to last season's game. That will live rent free in my brain, probably until it's vindicated, until the Saints travel up there and beat them 36-0 or something. I just cannot let that go. I can't believe that they let Jordan Love come back and do that. In all respect to Jordan Love, I love, no pun intended, love Jordan Love, but he wasn't supposed to do that, and that really started this train of Jordan Love. It just leading up to this big contract he just got about a month ago. He went on a roll after that Saints victory or beating the Saints. And so, I got the Saints losing that game on Monday Night Football. The following week, this is going to be an interesting game. This is the game that I'm pretty sure there are two individuals that are currently on the Saints roster, whether they're on the coaching staff or a player, got this game circled with a heart on their calendar. And I'm talking about the heart with the arrow going through it. It's crazy. The reason it's on their calendar that way, week 17, on December the 29th, the day after my daughter's birthday, in the Superdome, 12 noon, the New Orleans Saints and Derek Carr will take on the Las Vegas Raiders. Why is that so significant to Derek Carr? That's where he played for 10 years. That's where his heart is. He loves the Raiders. He does not miss an opportunity to talk about how much he loves the Raiders organization. That's fine. I'm not ragging on him for that. He should. He was there for 10 years. It's like a marriage at that point. And so it makes sense. But he never wanted to leave there. That was something that kind of behind the scenes stuff with him and the staff, coaching staff, and all this other stuff. But he never wanted to leave there. We just so happened to get him. Just like Drew Brees. Drew Brees didn't want to leave San Diego, but he ended up leaving San Diego. He made chicken salad out of what. So he made it work. But yeah, he really wants to stick it to the Raiders. And also Dennis Allen was the coach. Actually, he was the coach that drafted Derek Carr with the Raiders. So there's a lot of history there. So both of these gentlemen have some incentive going up against this team. I think the Saints lose this game. And the reason I say the Saints going to lose, too much emotion. There's going to be too much emotion wrapped up in that game for Derek Carr and Dennis Allen, and we're going to lose. I hope and pray I'm wrong. Oh, Lord, I hope I pray I'm wrong. But I don't think that I am. And that leads us to the final game of the regular season. Week 18, there's no day or time or start time or whatever, because this is a to be determined due to playoffs, and this could be a flex game, could determine the division and playoff seeding, because the Saints will travel to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers in the final game of the season. I think the Saints win this game. They finish quote unquote strong, being as though they lose 3 out of their last 4. Uh, they they're gonna need it, because that will make their record 10-7 on the season. Will it be enough to get in the playoffs? No. Will it be enough to win a division? Maybe. And when I say make the playoffs, I mean like a wild card spot without winning the division. I don't see that happening. But as far as winning the division, that could get you the division. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out going forward. But that's the way I got it. Like I said, there are, I would say, 2, maybe 3 question marks on a couple of these losses that you could probably flip me on. You can flip me on the Vegas game. The Saints might come out. They should, on paper, yeah, they should beat the Raiders, but I don't think they are. I can't convince myself to say that they'll win that game. But if you want to have that fight out with me, that's fine. I won't fight you on it. We can discuss the Washington Commanders. We might can win that game. We should be able to win that game, because that was another point that I wanted to make why we would lose that game, because there's emotion wrapped up in that too, with Chase Young and all this here. So there's elements. There's the game within the games that you have to look at. At least that's what I look at when I make these predictions. But can the Saints win that game? Even though I got them losing it, yeah, they can win it. Yeah, I'm sure they can win it. And like I said, the Dallas one, that's debatable too. That's debatable. I want them to win it. Lord knows I want them to win it, because I gotta have bragging rights. But I don't know. We'll see. And so that 10-7 isn't etched in stone there. It can easily be 11-6. It can easily be 12-5. But I'll put it like this: 10-7 is the worst case scenario, I believe. If the Saints finish worse than this, then seriously, it's got to be a change. You have to pull the trigger, Mickey Loomis, if they lose, if they're worse than 10-7 this season. But that's just my opinion. Maybe you know better. It's a possibility. I'm not the greatest of minds. I'm constantly reminded by my wife, but that's fine. It's fine. I think I'm smart, and there are a couple of people out here who think I'm smart as well. But I would love to know your opinion. What do you think the Saints' schedule or record will be at the end of this season? Or how do you feel about this game coming up? Do you think the Saints should blow these people out of the water? They should, but I'm not ready to say that either. I'm just ready to see them. I want to see how this new offense looks. I want to see how this defense is truly set up to be. We're going to get this NASCAR package that they were kind of teasing in the offseason, in the preseason. We shall see. This is going to be fun. Oh, I can't wait till Sunday. Lord Emery, I can't wait. Oh, man. But I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget to subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube, and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me as we previewed the upcoming season for your New Orleans Saints. Oh, can't wait to speak to you after the Saints whoop up on the Carolina Panthers this Sunday. Until then, I'm going to be screaming, "Who dat?"